Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the latest self-destructive row that's blown up within the Conservative Party last night, as a well-known backbencher doesn't just call for Rishi Sunak to stand aside or be sacked, but has his arguments published in the only Tory client media outlet still credible with much of the public. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So here I was getting ready to talk about the standards controls coming online, as some people seem to be getting it wrong as to exactly what's happening. But then the Tories kicked off again late last night, and I thought, well, there's another week for the standards control, so fine, we'll leave that till tomorrow. Tory psychodrama it is. Except despite all the talk of this being Tory MPs fighting each other again in election year, that's not what's really happening. This is a much bigger problem for the Tories and Sunak because it's their own client media. Now, to explain what I mean, let's go over the chronology here. So 8:15 last night, Harry Cole, political editor of The Sun, tweets that Number 10 are braced for a leadership onslaught tonight. They're expecting senior party figures to go public regarding Sunak's suitability for leadership, basically. Then, 9 o'clock, The Telegraph publish an article. Ooh, what's this? Calls for Sunak to step aside. Yeah, by who? Another childish interpretation of polling data somewhere else. And the article is written by Simon Clarke. And? Just Simon Clarke. Right, well, where are these senior party figures we were promised then? Oh, they're not there? Okay, how interesting. Yeah, we were promised multiple senior figures. What we got was Simon Clarke. Really stretching it to describe him as a senior figure. It's definitely stretching it to describe him as multiple senior figures. In fact, the only Tory MP who alone could qualify as multiple MPs is Grant Shapps. I mean, Simon Clarke, you know, you'd say, okay, technically he's on the Privy Council. He was in Cabinet for like a year. And when you're in Cabinet, you're automatically put onto the Privy Council. But I mean, that's stretching a point. He's not influential. Like, consider last week's Rwanda Bill third reading vote. Simon Clarke was one of those voting against. He wanted to defeat the government. He urged others to do the same. Only 11 Tory MPs did, and many of those are more influential than he is. Which basically means every single one of those 11 Tory MPs who voted against it and urged others to do the same was ignored by the vast majority of their colleagues. So none of those 11 can be said to be influential, because on a really important bill, a really important vote, the rest of the parliamentary party ignored them and voted a different way. They're a small band of isolated rebels. So it is no big deal that Clarke is calling for Sunak to be deposed. The big deal is that the media are hyping it. In fact, you should have seen the reaction from a sort of Tory shills and Johnson supporters on social media. Oh, it all blew up. Oh, this is it, lads. This is it. You know, Sunak will be resigning by the end of the week. It's all kicked off now. It's all started. And it's like, why? Because a backbencher with no following in the party said he should. Like, why weren't they hyping up it when Andrea Jenkins, last year, she's been doing it for a while now, she's been publicly calling for Sunak to stand aside. Why weren't they going, oh, that's it now, Andrea Jenkins is on the case, that'll be it now? I think there's a little bit of misogyny going on here. But the fact of the matter is, a second Tory backbencher calling for Sunak to go is not going to trigger a leadership contest. Also, we were promised, like I said, multiple senior Tories. Where were the rest? Every Tory MP I saw having anything to say about it was telling Simon Clarke to go and jump in a river. Even Andrea Jenkins, I looked her up, she couldn't be bothered to tweet anything. This morning, all it is that you've just got this list of Tory MPs, openly in some cases, anonymously in others, all saying Clarke should wind his neck in. Just to emphasise the fact he doesn't speak for some silent majority. Now, don't get me wrong, I doubt many MPs disagree with his assertion that Sunak is leading them to electoral oblivion. Of course he is, it's obvious. But they know it'll only make things worse for them to change leader again. Like, consider what would happen. 2 months of leadership hopefuls trashing their own party's record in government. Again, only this time with the election fast approaching. And then at the end of it all, they'd certainly have to delay the election till autumn. So have fun with the full force of the new standards controls as the autumn trade tries to ramp up, and the implementation of ETIAS passport controls, to say nothing of everything else that could easily be getting worse by then. And who do they even have? Like, Sunak is terrible, absolutely. But so is every other possible replacement lined up. You know, the leader they adopt when Sunak resigns, before or after the election, more likely after, is going to be quite awful. If the Tories had anyone credible, they would have backed them instead of Truss and Sunak in the first place. The Tories are not going to get a credible leader again until they face up to a few facts. But this is all still a problem for the Tories and Sunak, not because it sounds like he's in danger of being deposed, but because their usually stalwart client media have their knives out. This latest attack has been driven by the Telegraph, although the Sun were hyping it as well. It is not unusual for the Tory media to put pressure on a Conservative government to do what they want if they don't like the general direction of policy. You know, our mainstream media, in particular the Tory client media, do not see themselves as existing to inform the public, but to get what they want from the government, put pressure on the government. But in election year, especially when we could well be inside the last 100 days, they tend to fall in line. They might chunter a bit, but they fall in line. They realise they've got way more influence over a Conservative than a Labour government, and they adopt a truce for a bit. The fact that the Telegraph are leading the charge on this, with the Sun more than happy to amplify it, suggests that they're still trying to get rid of Sunak, even though it would be making things worse for the Tories come the election. You know, the Tory election strategist Isaac Leverdow was last week calling for unity. Not because it just makes for a more pleasant working environment, but out of practical necessity. Policies don't matter if the public think you can't deliver them, either due to incompetence or infighting. And the Tories have got both on show. The public are already sick of divisive politics. They're not going to think it a good idea to have the party of government at war with itself. Behaviour like this will not only cause more Conservative voters to either stay away on polling day or vote for someone else, but motivate others to vote tactically to reduce the number of Conservative MPs to a minimum. And despite the fact that this latest attack is, from one angle, just a storm in a teacup. Like, I looked at it last night and just thought, well, it's just Simon Clarke. The fact that the media are hyping it gets through to voters who don't spend all day fixated on politics like me. They don't see an isolated rebel shooting his mouth off. They see the Tories tearing each other apart because that's what the media are saying. That's why this is serious for the Tories. It's the impression the public are getting because their own client media, who usually reserve this overblown reporting for Labour and other Conservative opponents, are now biting the hand that feeds them. Needless to say, a lot of Conservative MPs, including ones who make no secret of their disdain for Sunak, are saying that this only helps those opposed to the Tories, ultimately Labour. They are, of course, absolutely correct. It's so obvious that even Priti Patel can see it. Really a sight to behold. This is the sort of self-destructive behaviour I'm more used to seeing in Labour than the Conservatives. Long may it continue. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.